Gentleman in
the minister.
I think it's a light blue top, and the cameraman right in front of me who's on the phone.
Thank you very much.
From SABC.
Now I'm not feeding, it's for a live broadcast.
Okay, at least he's doing it for a live broadcast, so it's fine.
I'm not going to feed.
But we had to discuss the festive numbers, as we usually do from December to December. What is going to happen is the minister is going to read a statement, and then we're going to have the opportunity for the media to ask questions. We are also joined by some colleagues in Cape Town. I greet them too. And Mzi will be assisting me from Cape Town to filter in any questions to Pretoria. Minister, I don't want to be too ceremonial. I'll hand to you to read the statement and take us through.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and compliments of the new year. Today we present yet another impressive increase in the number of travelers entering and leaving South Africa during the 2016-2017 festive season. We also share we also share information on interventions at OR Tambo International Airport. Operations at South African ports of entry for the 2016-17 festive season were completed with much success. We can make bold to say these operations were characterized by high levels of professionalism and efficiency. On 9 January 2017, News 24 reported that 3 South African airports were listed amongst the world's most punctual. These are Cape Town International Airport, OR Tambo International Airport, as well as King Shaka International Airport, with Cape Town placed top of the 3 for airport punctuality. Cape Town featured 6th on the Global Medium Airport Punctuality List, recently published by UK travel analysts, OAG. OR Tambo featured in 8th position globally on OAG's large airport punctuality list, and King Shaka ranked 10th in the world on OAG's small airport punctuality list. In 2016, Cape Town achieved its 10th million passenger milestone during the year. Through its immigration services, the Department of Home Affairs has reaffirmed its commitment to reclaim and reassert state authority in the country, in terms of which South Africa's borders must be effectively safeguarded and secured. I am therefore pleased that we have among us some of our high-performing officials who move South Africa forward, seated at on the left at the back there. I wish to congratulate them for the service they rendered to the country during the festive season, to ensure that there was a smooth entry and departure of travelers, as well as to ensure that we could continue to safeguard South Africa's security through our border management. Critical reflection on operations in this period remains a critical requirement for future operations. I am happy to announce that from 9 December 2016 to 14 January 2017, movements recorded at ports of entry nationally amounted to a total of 5,504,022 travelers. This marks an increase of 200,467 compared to the 5,303,555 recorded for 9 December 2015 to 14 January 2016. It is an increase of 3.78%. In spite of perceptions in some quarters, South Africa remains an attractive tourist destination. Top 10 nationalities that arrived in South Africa over this period were from Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Swaziland, Botswana, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, Namibia, Germany, and Zambia, continuing to underscore the centrality of South Africa in the African continent, and particularly in the SADC region, as well as our continued attraction to our immediate neighbors. Top 10 ports by volume between 9 December 2016 and 14 January 2017 were OR Tambo International Airport, Beit Bridge, Lebombo, Maseru Bridge, Fixburg, Cape Town International Airport, Oshuk, Kopfontein, Ramatlabama, and Groblersdal Bridge. All movements for OR Tambo for 9 December 2016 and 15 January 2017 reached a total of 977,961 as against 948,477 during 9 December 2015 to 14 January 2016. A full report on traveler statistics is attached in presentation format. The 2016-2017 festive season was marked by increased movement of people and goods across borders for different reasons, varying from cross-border employment and business to academic and educational endeavors. We also observe a high number of travelers crossing borders for holiday and tourist purposes, which is one of important priorities for the country. This movement is facilitated by a large number of ports of entry, with numbers of those traveling being cyclically influenced by the reasons for traveling, and thus we observe increases in movements during the year. This therefore makes it imperative for ports to be well prepared at all times to execute and facilitate traveler movement, and importantly also to mitigate illegal movements and transgressions, especially during peaks. The upsurge in traveler and vehicular movements put a strain on limited resources at the ports of entry. Festive season operations commenced in earnest on the 9th December 2016 and extended up to the 14th January 2017. Operational plans and instructions as well as security alerts were issued in support of ports of entry operations. Historical data on operations conducted during peak seasons in the border environment reflects the need to extend operational hours at ports of entry to cater for the upsurge in traveler movements. I therefore approve the extension of operational hours for ports of entry, experiencing significant upsurge in movement volumes during the festive season. The Immigration Operational Center at National Office played a vital role in the success of port operations during this period. It resolved most of the challenges experienced at a tactical level. More importantly, the Operational Center followed a sound escalating protocol to ensure that senior and executive management in the department were well informed of issues, thus to allow for early responses to situations. The festive season plan further included a deliberate response to lack of capacity at some ports of entry. Key ports were augmented with additional capacity to ensure efficiency is improved. One such port is OR Tambo International Airport. Deploying additional staff with good results demonstrated that the challenge at OR Tambo is mainly around resources. Now that the deployed staff had been withdrawn, maintaining the same levels of efficiency and effectiveness poses serious challenges necessitating action. OR Tambo as a strategic hub requires additional resources on a permanent basis. It is for this reason that the department with limited resources plans to increase capacity at this airport. To this end, we have allocated 25 million rand for the 2017-18 financial year, and therefore we should be able to appoint an additional 58 immigration officers and fully capacitate our management team. A further increase in staff capacity is planned for the 2018-19 financial year with an additional budget allocation of 17 million rand availed by National Treasury. But challenges at OR Tambo are not only about staff shortage. Other areas of concern include the current infrastructure layout of the arriving and departing terminals. Engagements with the airport company South Africa are apace to reconsider the current layout of identified areas. Among the proposals is the separation of travelers departing in the same way as in the arrival terminal, where citizens are separated from foreign travelers. The festive period where this proposal was piloted had shown there is value in implementing this option permanently, precisely because required services are different for citizens and other clients. We are grateful for assistance received from AXA in terms of transportation and accommodation for our officials over the festive season. We trust that other stakeholders will come on board in their different ways. Maintaining sound stakeholder relations in the border environment is essential for successful border operations. The value of an integrated approach to border operations as set out for the Planned Border Management Authority underlines this notion. The following incidents where a number of government officials, of government departments and entities were involved further supports this view. On 16 December 2016, a Syrian national, a suspected extremist and known member of ISIS, traveled to South Africa and was stopped and refused entry at OR Tambo Airport and returned. He had 2 passports, one Uruguayan and another Syrian in his possession. This also goes to show the important role immigration plays in security. Before the 2016-17 festive season, South Africa had beefed up security by rolling out biometrics at selected ports. On the whole, I am very grateful for the excellent work done by our dedicated immigration officials in partnership with their colleagues from other government departments and agencies. The 2016-17 festive season operation was implemented successfully and proficiently, thus allowing for a sound base for preparing for the next operation, the Easter of 2017. Improving efficiency remains high on our agenda, as we see in respect of management of the 2016-17 festive season operations. This is a milestone in managing immigration for development whilst guaranteeing safety and security for citizens and clients. Best wishes for 2017 and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for the statement. This is now the opportunity for the media to ask questions. I'm sure you're all familiar with the drill. All you have to do is raise your hand and just say which media house you're from and shoot. So you can go. So.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I can hear you, Barry. Yeah.
Yeah, just got to get a recording here.
Sure.
Barry Bateman, Eyewitness News. Good afternoon. Just curious on that last piece of information you told us there about a Syrian national known member of ISIS who made it to South Africa but was turned away by our officials. Just a quick, why wasn't he arrested and detained? And perhaps if he's a known member of ISIS, turned over to the relevant international authorities? And then just, I had a brief look at the breakdown on the figures, and I'm seeing the number of people per nationality. If you could just give us a breakdown, if you have it available, on the international travels. I'm talking the UK, US, Germany, apart from our neighbors. Is there any fluctuation, increase or decrease from those particular individuals coming in to South Africa? Obviously, they would be coming with their dollars, their euros, and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Any other questions? Kaya?
Hi, good afternoon. It's Kylie Kumalo here from ENCA. Mr. Minister, you're talking about an increase, obviously, of the people who use the country's ports of entry. What could be some of the overriding factors that you may attribute this to? And obviously, just in light of all these arrivals that you had, in terms of the areas, are you also able just to shed more light as to where are some of these people going to? Perhaps to the coastal areas, to the beaches, or just something to that effect? Thank you.
Thank you, Kaya. Minister, if it's okay with you, I think we'll take those questions and then we'll come back for another round. Domestic.
Just a moment. No, thank you. Thank you very much. I had not properly captured one question. Now, with regard to the question, why didn't we arrest him or detain him? Remember that as he arrived, he had not broken any South African law. So what we are required to do is to send the guy back to his country of origin where he has committed transgressions. We can't arrest you in South Africa unless our law specifically stipulates that you can be arrested in South Africa for a transgression you've committed in another country. So what we were doing in this regard was to immediately send him back to his country of origin where he would have committed transgressions, and it behoves that country to then take the necessary action against the said individual. We will be able to provide figures to break down nationalities arriving beyond those of the SADC region. But I think we need not take for granted that the nationalities from the SADC region also bring the dollars to the country, and we value their contribution to our economy as we value that from other people. In actual fact, if you consider the fact that most of the travelers to South Africa annually are mostly from SADC and generally from the African continent, it means that the people of Africa make a significant contribution to the South African economy in various fields, and we need to value that. The question to what would we attribute the increase in the numbers? I think from where we sit, once we start projecting the country as a tourism destination and highlight the various tourist attractions that are available in South Africa, it tends to have a positive impact on the numbers of people who are traveling to our country. But secondly, the fact that people feel safe when they come here. People feel safe. I mean, besides what South Africa offers, we live in a world which has a lot of insecurity for people. We saw that in December, a tragedy happened in Germany, and a number of other countries have recently been experiencing turbulences. And yet South Africa has remained relatively safe from and exempted from those types of incidents. And so people feel safe and comfortable coming here. And that's why we think that, amongst others, we are seeing the gradual increase in the tourism numbers during the festive season and in travel to South Africa right throughout the year. Unfortunately, even though we do ask when people fill in the different visa forms when coming to South Africa, the purposes of their coming to the country, we don't necessarily keep track of what their destinations are. And so we might have to do a little bit more work, but it would also be inaccurate because there are many people from countries that do not apply for visas when they come to the country. For example, your nationals of various SADC countries that enjoy visa waiver agreements, your nationals of the UK. Therefore, the people who can keep track of where did these people end up could be the Department of Tourism. From where we sit, we can only tell you that they arrived, and we can tell you the information with regard to those who had to apply for visas. But we have a number of people, as you would see from this top 10 list that we provided here. Virtually all the people who are in the top 10 list would not have had to apply for a visa when coming to South Africa, and therefore we only other departments would know where they ended up. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Mzi, we'll come to you to see if there's any questions from Cape Town.
Yes, there are questions in Cape Town. In actual fact, we've got 3 hands. 1, 2, 3.
Sure, I'll take those.
Can we fire on?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Good afternoon, Marianne Merton, Daily Maverick. Minister, would you be able to give us a breakdown of the reasons for arrival? I know you mentioned, broadly speaking, tourism, work, study, but it would be extremely helpful to actually, first of all, know whether we can identify the reason of arrival, and two, give us a breakdown of the reasons of arrival. Your media alert mentioned that you would give us an update on the special dispensation for people from Swaziland. Would you please be able to do that? Maybe also an update on the special dispensation with regards to Zimbabwe. And perhaps it would be possible to relate back those two areas to the numbers of arrivals you've presented us. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Kulega. Thank you, Kulegan Magubana from Business Day. Just three questions. Firstly, wanted to find out if there's any indication of what the major transgressions were regarding refusals upon arrivals. Secondly, wanted to find out also, like my colleague, the uptake on the Lesotho Special Permit dispensation and how the uptake was on the mobile offices that the department sets up for this purpose during the period. Thirdly, wanted to find out, just for a matter of clarity, because a lot of people have spoken about tourism and the concerns therein, the definitions of the Department of Tourist being consistent with those of the Department of Tourism. Can we get that clarified once and for all? Because you're looking at these numbers and you're attributing them to improve tourism. We just wanted to establish that. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Minister.
Yeah. Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Minister. Paul Vecchiato from Bloomberg. Just could you also give us an indication of these travelers, what percentage have violated their visa requirements? For instance, just for argument's sake, tourists not going back on time or found to be working whilst on a tourist visa. And secondly, could you tell us about the visa requirements from China, especially in China and India, where there have been some problems for people to get visas traveling long distances and so on? Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted it to flow, all these questions just to go like that. Yeah,
No,
that will be the badge.
You did a good
for
job.
this round.
You did a good job. Thanks, Mzee.
Thank you.
Colleagues, around the LSP question, we decided to move the LSP briefing to next week so we can give it the necessary attention it deserves, and we can focus entirely on that and focus today on the festive numbers. But I don't know if the minister may want to speak to the ZSP question. But around the Lesotho question, we are definitely going to be giving members of the media a briefing next week around the numbers. But with that said, Minister, I'll hand over to you for that round of questions.
Thank you very much, and thank you, colleagues, for the questions you have asked. To start with, the reasons for arrivals, as we say, are difficult for us to quantify, because, and that's why we are not releasing tourism statistics but travel statistics, because what we do is to tell you how many people arrived, and the purposes for which they arrived in the country during the time would vary. As we indicate, tourism, education, business, and other purposes, including those who are returning home for the festive season, whether coming to South Africa or going abroad. What makes it difficult for us, as I say, is because there's a number of people who don't have to apply for visas from visa-exempt countries. Those people don't have to explain to us the reasons why they are traveling to South Africa. They would simply make their bookings and travel to the country because they are taking advantage of the visa exemption stipulations that they enjoy in terms of the agreements between South Africa and their countries. To the extent that we can do a breakdown of that which we know, I'm sure that our statistics department can go ahead and do that and provide it as a subsequent briefing to those who are interested. With regard to, and I think that would also address the question Kulegani asked, because we are looking at travel statistics, Kulegani. The Department of Tourism would then indicate what was the impact of the festive season on tourism around the country. Already there is a number of reports which indicate that there was an increase in the number of tourists. The ferries to Robben Island improved drastically. Various other tourism destinations, including Kirstenbosch and Cape Town and others, were experiencing high volumes of travelers, in addition to the ones they had experienced in the previous year. And there was a large uptake of hotel accommodation around the country. Some hotels were reporting 95% occupancy rate. So there was a very positive impact in terms of the tourism in the country during the festive season. Whether that was only by foreign nationals visiting South Africa or included South Africans, because we know that there are also many South Africans who have taken up to touring the country during the festive season, is something that somebody else would be looking at and not us as the department, since our main focus is those who entered and departed our ports of entry during the period. Now, with regard to the Lesotho Special Permit, we will provide a proper briefing at the right time next week or about it, where we will give a full breakdown of what has the uptake been like. Then with regard to Zimbabwe, we are in the process of deciding what should happen to the holders of the Zimbabwean special permits. We had indicated in 2014, when we extended the dispensation for Zimbabweans permit by another 3 years, that come end of December 2017, any holder of the Zimbabwean special permit, the Zimbabwe special permit would come to an end. We advised the Zimbabweans in the country, those who are on the ZSP, to regularize their stay in the country by taking advantage of the various visas that are provided for in the Immigration Act in the Republic of South Africa. Now, many of them have, and many of them would have, even prior to the 2014 announcement of the ZSP. We now have to decide, with regard to those who are holders of the ZSP but would not have regularized their stay in another way, what do we do? And I think I would not want at this stage to jump the gun and preempt the decision which I will have to make after consultation with my cabinet colleagues. At this stage, it suffices, I think, to say we're looking at the situation. We will take a rational decision that benefits both the South African economy as well as South Africa's security, but also a decision that takes into consideration the fact that you could have thousands of people whose permits suddenly lapse, and you cannot negatively affect them by simply throwing them off the streets. But we will take a necessary decision at the right time and make an announcement in that regard. The major transgressions with regard to entry refusals, I mean, besides the Syrian case that I spoke about earlier, would relate to failure to produce, amongst others, would relate, amongst others, to failure to produce all the required South African documents, whether you are traveling with minor children or you are traveling as an adult, and a number of other such reasons. that relate to our visa regulations and our entry requirements as a country. And so those are the major transgressions. There could be some people who are on our the V list, who are on our V list, people who may have been serving their overstaying banishment and all other such reasons, that we would have said to them, you therefore on the basis of this are not allowed to come back, to come into the country. Those would be the reasons that would have resulted in any entry refusals. Now, with regard, Paul, to the percentage of people that have violated visa requirements, for the festive season, we have not yet done that assessment, since the festive season period as defined by us only ended 4 days ago. So we now have to look at, did all those who were supposed to leave on time leave? And how many have not left on time? What penalties are being imposed on them? So that's the work that is ongoing. Obviously, we don't do it for groups of people. Such work is done per individual. We look at your entry, the conditions of your entry, when you should have departed the country, whether you did depart the country on time, and what are the reasons. And some of the people would have valid reasons why they could not depart the country as scheduled in terms of their visa provisions. And for such people, you then waive the penalties imposed by the Immigration Act and remove them from those penalties. Some of them would, even after they have been slapped with penalties, submit a request to the Director General explaining the reasons why they had overstayed. And so we can only know that a few weeks from today, when we do the assessment of such people. With regard to people from China and India, we have addressed many of the challenges that are being faced in those countries. You will remember that we had about 11 visa facilitation centers in India. We also took the decision that for BRICS countries, we were going to register their trusted traveler companies, trusted tourism companies, to which we would then defer the responsibility to check the compliance of their clients with our visa requirements, and then ensure that instead of implementing the regulations as are stipulated generally for people from those countries, it is the trusted tourism companies that assist us in undertaking that responsibility and provide us the relevant information. We had moved with speed with regards to China because it was a bit easier. The tourism companies in China are already accredited by the government, and therefore accrediting them in South Africa also became easy. We did that. We are continuing to engage with the embassies of those countries to ensure that they can be fully compliant with our visa regulations, and that we address whatever the outstanding challenges may be experienced with those countries. China had, in addition, given us 5 visa facilitation centers, in addition to the ones that we had, the 2 that we had, which we appreciated a great deal because it enabled us to spread our footprint and get closer to the travelers than had been the case prior to that decision. So we have been able to work very well with those countries, and I think in terms of our statistics, we should provide the statistics of how many people from India and China arrived in the country during the festive season. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We'll take another round of questions.
Good afternoon, Minister Anton Meyer from Pretoria FM. This might be a stupid question, but what happened at Uppington International Airport? I see there's an increase of 235% of travelers to Uppington International Airport. Was there a festival that you didn't tell us about? What happened there?
Let's take another question.
Kim from Tourism Update. How many travelers were denied boarding or entry into South Africa because they did not have the correct documentation?
Johnny.
Good day, everyone. My name is Johnny Sai. I'm with African News Agency. Just for the Minister, please. When I interacted with organizations which deal with people from Lesotho or people from Zimbabwe, there was a problem of people crossing the border and getting, say, a single day when someone is traveling to Durban from Maseru or somewhere. What could be the intervention within the next phase of when people travel in numbers? What can a person do in such a circumstance? Thank you so much.
Minister, let me give you...
Basitana Pura from ANN7. I just wanted to know, apart from the Syrian national that was taken back, were there any other big arrests or interventions made by our immigration officers in ports of entries?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Look, Uppington International Airport is an interesting issue. It's a seasonal airport. It becomes most active, particularly during the hunting season, as well as during the harvest, when the farmers have harvested their crop and all the processes done, and now have to export the food that has to go abroad by flight. It becomes most active at that time. We still have to look at what was the reason during the festive season, this festive season, that you saw the upsurge in the activity at Uppington. It could be that tourists are discovering a new area which is attractive for tourism. But there could be various other ways, and our job as Home Affairs is never to trust anything until we are sure that what we are seeing is exactly what it is. Now, in this regard, Cabinet took a decision last year that there are too many international airports in the country. We need to rationalize them. And I am expected during the course of this year to go back to Cabinet with a decision on that. Now, the presumption, therefore, of rationalizing the ports of entry is that, one, you can't declare any new port of entry now, because Cabinet says, but the ones we have are too many. Secondly, it's that it could be that some of the international ports of entry need to be scaled down from being international ports of entry to being just domestic ports of travel. And we may have, without preempting the decision that we will take, we may have to declare some of the international airports as just seasonal airports, so that in terms of the deployment of personnel and resources for those ports, we do it for the seasons that are stipulated, which means that we would have to consult with various stakeholders, the Department of Agriculture, Environmental Affairs, and in this regard, the Department of Tourism, if really the reasons for the upsurge in the travel numbers for Uppington was as a result of the increase in some tourism factors So we are going to look at this and take a decision, but I think it's necessary to note the cabinet decision to rationalize ports of entry, which means that over the foreseeable future, we see absolutely no reason to introduce any new international airport. Secondly, if you go to slide 11, I don't know if you got this, the document called the Port Control Festive Season, 9 December. Yeah. If you go to slide 11, it does indicate the numbers of people that were denied. More or less, they are just above 2,000. No. You have, we've categorized them by age. So from 0 to 9 years, 515, from 10 years to 17 years, 707, those would be your minors. You can already anticipate what were the reasons for the refusal of these minors to enter the country. And I'm not making a prejudgment. We would need to look at all the relevant factors. And then from 18 years up to one person between the age of 90 and 99 years. So the figures are provided there of the people who were denied entry into the country. Now, I think if the question would then ask how many people were denied exit from the country, we would need to go back to doing statistics, to counting that and providing that statistics. The question regarding the SADC region, I did pick up a number of such challenges. And it could vary, sometimes when people come to us and say, they go to the media and say, Home Affairs says I'm married. Okay. What they don't say is that we have in our possession their marriage certificate signed by them where they got paid to marry themselves to someone else for payment. Now that they have met Umaqondana, the right person, they now need to marry this person, and in order not to fall foul with the new partner, the real partner, they then shift the blame to us. We would need to check, because there is a 90-day visa agreement. You see, this 90 days is per calendar year. It's not 90-day visa exemption per 3 months. What some of the nationals of our neighboring countries do, they will come to South Africa on the 1st of January, stay in the country until the 31st of March, then go to the border gate, bribe officials for a new stamp of a new 3 months, and then hit a U-turn. You've exhausted already your 90 days per calendar year. Now, for the remaining 270 days, you rely on bribing officials in order to get additional 90 days until you complete your year. The rest of the time, you've exhausted your right to be in the country. And so if you come and say, and present yourself, and the immigration official looks at your travel record and says, but you have 1 day remaining in terms of your 30 days. Now you face an option. Either you take your 1 day and proceed and come back within 24 hours, or you now apply for a visa for the days that you want to spend in the country. And yet when people have exhausted, have taken 89 of their 90 days, they will not say that, oh no, I've already used my 89 days. They will just simply say, Home Affairs just gave me 1 day, without reflecting on themselves, honestly. Because for us, these systems are electronically generated. That's why we have got an enhanced movement control system. It helps us to monitor your movement at any time you enter the country. Not for that particular time, but it links back to the history and record of your travel to South Africa for us to know what type of a traveler are you? Are you a risk? Are you an honest person? And in the future, it is precisely this record that we are going to use to provide frequent travelers with their trusted traveler visa, which would be a long-term multiple entry visa, which would apply on us reading your passport and your fingerprints without having to stamp your passport. And so there are benefits to be had by being just honest, an honest traveler. And when we implement our laws and apply them to the letter, people must not be angry. They must just respect the fact that our immigration officials are applying the law of their republic, of their sovereign republic, as they should. And we appreciate all of those honest immigration officials who are doing great job ensuring compliance with our laws and keeping our country safe, and ensuring that we can benefit from the resources, the foreign exchange being brought by travelers to our country. Then the final question, there were a few other interventions that we implemented. And I think we can provide that information once we've compiled all of them. There were some that we implemented over the past weekend that involved the travel, the attempt to bring into our country children that were victims of trafficking. So we will just be able to compile all of that list and provide it. But I really sincerely appreciate the alertness and vigilance of our immigration officials in the ports of entry. They operate under a difficult environment. If you look at the travel records, OR Tambo is difficult. But if you think OR Tambo is difficult, try go to Bait Bridge, Maseru Bridge, Libombo Bridge, where the technology, the layout, the physical infrastructure, and everything else works simply against you. At Bait Bridge, there are no air conditioners, and you sweat there profusely whilst you are conducting a service and are expected to be alert for the 8 hours of your service. We appreciate their service very deeply, and appreciate the fact that they were able, with a lot of technical difficulties and operational difficulties, but very little major complaints, to provide a service to the country during the festive season, and mainly to our travelers whose contribution to our economy we cherish. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. But members of the media, if there are other details you do want, as the Minister said, myself and Thabo can sit with you afterwards to get those specifics if they are not covered in this report. And to Kim, when you look at those refusals, I'm sure you're also going to look at the context of how many people actually came in terms of it being 5 million, and that the compliance is actually quite high compared to the refusals we've had. But if there's no more questions here in Pretoria, we can take this one and then we'll come to Cape Town shortly.
Okay, well, thank you very much. My name is Yvonne Katsande. I know I came in a bit late, so maybe I might have missed this question. Perhaps one of my colleagues might have asked it, but for the benefit of me, obviously. With regards to the ZSP and the Lesotho permits, Minister Gigaba, I just wanted to find out, the Zimbabwean community in South Africa has contributed positively to the South African GDP. As we all know, most of them are professionals, they work, and there's quite a number of them that are living in South Africa. So if the case is that you do decide to end the permit in 2017 completely and not renew it, will that not also affect your economy? And will there be any chance at all that perhaps you could consider the ones that are in the system already to be granted a stay, given that their livelihoods are actually based here in South Africa as opposed to their country of origin?
Okay, Mzi, I think we can add a few more questions to that one. So if there's any questions in Cape Town, we can channel them.
No, Cape Town is covered. Thanks, Mahlome.
Okay, thanks, Mzi.
They've exhausted their questions.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Thank you. I think it's going to help. There's a number of arguments which can be made, and you are making a valid argument about the contribution not only of Zimbabweans to the South African economy, but of the nationals of the SADC region. Not only starting with Zimbabwe, because long prior to the Zimbabweans, the peoples of Mozambique, of Lesotho, Swaziland were being recruited by TEBA to the South African gold and diamond mines. They've also provided a great service to the South African economy. And we've taken decisions in that regard that consider those positive contributions and tried to accommodate the contribution they had made. Now, that is one of the considerations. There are others. And when we look at what to do with the Zimbabwe Special Permit, we will take into consideration all of the factors that are necessary for us to take into consideration. As I say, I don't want to, right now, be dragged into that conversation because it has not been properly processed by myself. It has not been canvassed with my cabinet colleagues. We will do that in the course of the year. We are mindful of the fact that people are anxious about the time lapsing, and they've established their lives and some of them families. We have been saying to many that they need to regularize their stay in the country by applying for relevant visas. So if you are a holder of a ZSP and are studying at a South African university, apply for a study visa. Get yourself out of the ZSP, because the ZSP, by its nature, is a ministerial discretionary permit. That's why we don't call it a visa. It's a ministerial discretionary permit. It's given to categories of people, whether individual or group, on the basis of special circumstances. It cannot qualify you for permanent residence or even naturalization afterwards. It is offered and it must lapse. And once it lapses, to continue offering a temporary permit to a person or group of people establishes a precedence of permanence. And therefore, we must now start considering, and people could take us to court and say to us, I've been in South Africa on this special permit for so many years. I now believe that I deserve permanent residence. And those are the factors that we need to take into consideration. And to bear in mind that to offer 190,000 people permanent residence at a go would be unprecedented anywhere in the world. It's unheard of. It shoots your population up by more than 10%. It's drastic. Would the economy cope? Would the national fiscus cope? Would various social policies cope with that drastic decision? I think I need to be allowed to exercise my mind fully on the matter without being put under pressure. I'm quite considerate of the anxieties of the individuals concerned and their families. But I want to reiterate that those who are studying, please apply for study visas. Those who are conducting businesses, please apply for business visas. If you've got a tax clearance certificate, you've got your all your relevant documents, please apply for a relevant visa. Those who are married now to South Africans, have South African children, please apply for accompanying spouse visas. There's a whole lot of visas available for people who were born outside South Africa to apply. And then perhaps we could find that after we've done that, the numbers of people who really are in a position such that they cannot apply for any of these regular visas, we might find that it's quite very few. And therefore, we may be able to take decisions which are favorable to them. But at this stage, whilst I need to get the Director General and the administration to look at all of these factors, I think I do deserve a little bit of space. I appreciate the voices of conscience to keep reminding me that the matter is urgent, but we are working on it. We will take the decision timelessly. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, DG. If the Minister would allow, we wanted a photo op for ourselves, but we're going to open this to members of the media of our immigration officers to come down and take a photo op with the Minister at the front. So if you could just make a little space and allow them to come down, we're going to take pictures. You guys are more than welcome to get footage of our hardworking officials.
Let's compare the ones with
Yes,
absolutely. Are you good?
Yeah. Wonderful. How you doing? Yeah, I'm okay, man. It's a compliment.
I still remember what you said to me.
Yeah.